Thank you for viewing the 2021 Professional Development Coordinators Training. This webinar has been structured into two sections. The first section will talk about the responsibilities of the PDC and then what types of professional development experiences are required by law. The second section is going to take a look at what effective professional development looks like and also some available resources from the Department of Education. So to begin, these are the major responsibilities of the District Professional Development Coordinator. We're going to look at these in a little more detail, but please notice how important the use of data is to the responsibilities. You want to continually look at data on the needs of your district and then use that data to help align effective professional learning opportunities that will help your district staff. You also want to make sure that you are in communication with all shareholders in the district, principals, staff members, councils, community members, and that records are kept for administrative and certified staff. These 5 policies outline not only the responsibilities of the position, but what professional development programs should include, what professional development requirements exist for certified staff and administrative staff, and then a little bit about the role that you play when working with site-based decision-making councils. So to start with, this regulation outlines the entire plan. It defines what a professional development program looks like. It talks about the requirement and need of a process to be in place at the district level, which also includes a needs assessment. It lists the elements of a professional development plan, what that plan should include, how professional development is defined, and then also the requirements and qualifications of your position. So within that is the requirement to have a process in place and how the design and implementation of your district professional development will go. This all starts with a needs assessment, and again, including input from all shareholders. It's very important that you also include families with this, in terms of getting their opinions on what the needs are for the district. Once all this is collected, analyze it and use that information to help develop the school and district improvement plans. Align professional development that meets the needs that are shown through the data and the needs assessment analysis, and then also make sure that these plans are made available to the public before implementing them. Another part of this is the PD plan diagnostic. This was new last year for those of you that were with us last year. For those of you that are new, this is a diagnostic that can really help in making sure those elements are included in your plan. And then this is uploaded to eProve between November 1st and January 1st. The elements, if you will notice, are that there is a mission statement included. So you've looked at your data and your needs, and you have set some goals and a mission statement based on those needs. There needs to be evidence that all persons, all shareholders are included and represented in the decision making and in the implementation. There needs to be evidence that your needs assessment was analyzed. Your professional learning objectives should be focused on the mission and connected to all this. And then lastly, there needs to be a process for the evaluation of the PD plan. This is what we're doing. Is it working? If it's working, these are our next steps. If it's not, these are areas in which we need to grow. This statute talks about the professional development program in general and lists what professional learning should always include. This is very evidence and research based, and we will see in a little while this is also embedded in both state and federal law. The school calendar bill has a lot of information about professional learning in addition to requirements for school calendars. This is where we find the language that talks about the required 24 hours for certified staff. I did want to point out that as the professional development coordinator, we do encourage you to always provide technical assistance to school councils and school leaders to help them be aware of resources that may already exist within the district or that you are aware of that will help them meet the goals that they have established for their staff. This statute talks about flexible PD plans. This is an option for districts. If you do choose this option, you want to make sure that it is approved by your school board, that the professional learning involved does directly correlate with the needs of the individual and their classroom assignment, that it aligns with the goals in your district and/or school improvement plans, that it has been approved by district administration, and also that there's some type of monitoring in place so you can ensure compliance. This legislation is about site-based decision-making council requirements, but what I did want to point out is it connects back to the school calendar bill in that as counselors are developing professional development for the school and approving those plans, that you want to be available to support them as they go through the information, as they make decisions on what they think will be the best fit for the needs of that school. The Effective Instructional Leadership Act, or ELA, is about professional development that is required for individuals holding administrative certification. As the PDC, you want to provide information for this population of professional development that you are aware of, that you think would be beneficial to them. But you also want to be sure you're keeping records, and 3 years is the minimum. And then if it gets to the end of the school year and you notice that an administrator does not have the 21 hours, just check in with them and remind them. Also, for administrative certificate holders that may not be in an administrative role, they have the option to earn 42 hours over a 5-year period from the last time their certificate was renewed to keep it up to date. And again, that may be something you may want to communicate with them on, just to let them know their options. The only reporting requirement with this is that if you do have an administrator at the end of the school year who has not gotten the 21 hours and you are unable to communicate with them for whatever reason, those names would need to be turned into the Educational Professional Standards Board, just to let them know that individual had not met those required hours. So this is just a review of the major responsibilities. I'm going to give you a second to look over that. But the graphic is just meant to show that it is cyclical. So once a district PD plan is developed, you want to collect and analyze data. That's not just scores, that's also input from your shareholders, input from surveys and conversations that you have in schools and with across the district. You want to take that information and align it with professional learning that will best meet those needs. You want to make sure that you are informing and collaborating with everyone and on an ongoing basis. And then you want to continuously evaluate those plans to make sure they are effective. And if not, make the needed changes to ensure that they are effective in meeting student needs. The next thing I'd like to talk about are the required professional development experiences that are required by state law. This document has been updated and is available on the Professional Learning website. In the document, each one of the statutes or regulations has been linked to it so you can read it in its entirety. And so I'm just going to go through those briefly. First required training is active shooter training. This needs to be done on a yearly basis, and it needs to be done by anyone who has direct contact with students. If you have employees that are hired later in the year, you want to make sure that you provide this training for them upon their hiring. These are just some resources for the active shooter trainings. Many districts collaborate with their local law enforcement agencies, and we encourage you to utilize whichever resource that you feel works best for your district. Child abuse and neglect training is a requirement every other year. It also needs to be a consideration for anyone that has interaction with students. PD credit for this is made at the district level. There are resources for this on the Child Abuse and Neglect webpage. There are some online options for this. But again, you can handle this locally if you feel like that is a better fit for your district. Seizure disorder training is a self-study requirement that needs to be done by everybody in the district. This is a one-time requirement only, however, so it is not an annual requirement. Suicide prevention training is required for middle and high school staff, and that is to be done every other year. However, if you have a staff member that is hired mid-year, you will want to make sure that this is available for them. Bloodborne pathogens training is a requirement for all school personnel that could be exposed to any kind of blood or infectious materials. It's required for all employees, and each school should have a control plan located in their building, most likely in the office. Physical restraint and seclusion training includes what we know as PBIS. So the main thing to keep in mind here is that all district employees do need PBIS, or positive behavior training, but you do have staff members that will work with certain populations that will also need the physical restraint training. The thing to remember here is that everyone in the district needs to be aware of the people that have that training in case a situation arises and they need that assistance. But the PBIS training is required for all school staff. First aid and CPR training is not a requirement for all staff members, but there should be at least one person in the building that does have CPR certification. This might be different based on local policy, but state policy just requires that one person be certified in the building. And then finally, the statewide child abuse and neglect hotline information poster should be shown somewhere in the building where people can see it through the window, especially children. This can be printed off the website. It's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, but please be sure that is displayed somewhere in the building where it can be easily seen. This just breaks down the required training in terms of contract days versus non-contractual days versus PD days. So you can see within the required 4 days, you can include your suicide prevention training and active shooter training. Seizure disorder training has to be done outside of those 4 days, so it's in addition to the 4 contractual days. And then the final 4 can be done at the district's discretion. The second half of this webinar is going to look a little closer at considerations for professional development and then what is available currently through the Department of Education. These are just a few brief things to think about as you look at professional learning for your district. Professional development and professional learning are used interchangeably, and I have done that as well throughout the webinar, but they are not exactly the same. And so when we think about professional development, the key word there is development. And if you think about the development of a plant, it is going to grow, but it's going to reach a certain stage or level and it's going to stop growing. And we think about that also in terms of professional development. Professional learning, on the other hand, is ongoing knowledge. So learning something and then learning more. It does not stop. There's really no end point for it. So we are going away from the one size fits all and the one and done trainings and trying to merge more into teachers as learners, just the same expectations we have for students. So these are just some things to keep in mind when you are maybe looking at outside vendors for your district, or if you are facilitating professional learning yourself. Another way to look at it is taking traditional PD and enhancing it to make it more of an interactive learning experience. And the biggest difference in the two really has to do with the reflection and follow-up. In traditional PD, that usually was not a part of it. You attended a training and then you left and you went on your way. With professional learning, that piece is really what makes it a more valuable experience for participants, because they can apply what they've done, take some time to reflect on that, and then get feedback on that. in terms of this was a very successful experience. My students benefited from it in this way. This is what I'm going to do next. Or this did not help my students in the way that I had hoped. These are some things I want to try next time. This comes back to the regulation we looked at earlier, but it also does define what professional learning should look like. This is the state definition of professional learning. It needs to be sustained, coherent, useful, and relevant. It also needs to have some measurable indicators, meaning, and that comes back to that evaluation part, is what we're doing effective for students? How do we know? And if it is, let's build on that. If it's not, let's fix it. And then you have the ongoing support that was lacking in former professional development. Thinking about what is required and what is best practice, the answer is actually both. The screenshot on the right are the standards for professional learning that are nationally recognized through the Learning Forward group. And you will see that those align very nicely with Kentucky's professional development requirements. I also wanted to share the definition that is in the Every Student Succeeds Act, and you will see that it is very aligned with what we also require at the state level, and that is that, you know, teachers are involved, they are reflecting, that it applies to their job, that there's evidence involved, and that there is feedback and follow-up. The last part of the webinar is going to focus on resources that are currently available from the Kentucky Department of Education. I'd like to start by looking at the Professional Learning Bulletin Board. If you are not already aware of this resource, it is a platform that allows educators in Kentucky to either post or look for professional learning opportunities that may be offered by the department or other educational partners. That includes national organizations, our regional co-ops, the KEA, and so forth. So I want to take a quick look at that, but I also want to encourage you, especially in this period where we have embraced virtual learning opportunities for educators, if you have something in your district that you are facilitating that you think would be beneficial to others in the state and are comfortable sharing that, I really encourage you to post that opportunity here. This is just a screenshot of what the page looks like, and it changes day by day, but I wanted to make sure that you were able to see that there is a section that has live events posted. This may be in person or virtual, but this is going to occur on a certain date and a certain time. But there's also an asynchronous section, which it goes way beyond just this one shown event, that has professional learning that is available on demand. As we look a little closer at this, you can see that the date is there. There's a program name which has a live link, so you can click the link to get more information. You can see who's sponsoring the event, what audience this may be best suited for. For administrators, you can see if there is an ELA option or not, whether it's digital or in person, and whether or not there are any costs involved. The on-demand area of the bulletin board looks a little bit like this. So you have the same information, but then here you will also have the link where you can access the professional learning directly. This is updated daily. And again, I encourage you to share your knowledge with others if you feel comfortable doing so. So I want to take a little time to talk about the resources that are available through the Office of Teaching and Learning here at KDE. Misty Higgins and Carrie McDaniel are our professional learning coordinators in our Division of Program Standards, and they organize and facilitate quite a bit of this, and I wanted to give you their contact information in case you wanted any more information about this. So a good starting point with this is the KY Standards website. You can access this through the KDE general website and just go to KY Standards, or you can directly access it by kystandards.org. You notice there are two sections. You have Explore the Standards and Standards Resources. So if you click on Explore Your Standards, you're going to get a screen that looks like this, and you can see that these are divided into content areas. So this is a way to search specifically for professional learning support based on content. And then you can also see here that these there are other things listed under Standards Resources, and I want to take a look at that really quickly. When you choose that, there's still the content area selections to make, but these are resources that may be helpful to you in your role, and particularly the professional learning modules, assignment review protocols, high quality instructional resources, and so forth. If we look at the resources for professional learning, you're going to find these four areas, information on these four areas available under this section. This document, The Characteristics of High Quality Professional Learning, was released just this past spring and includes the main characteristics from research that we hope you consider when you're designing high quality professional learning for teachers and or leaders in your district. In looking over the characteristics, the very first and foremost thing is that your professional learning should always be aligned to both the Kentucky academic standards and your school and district goals, but also linked to other professional learning activities, so one coherent program can be implemented. This allows teachers and leaders to see how everything is connected to the district's goal. Professional learning should always be content focused and incorporate active learning, use models and modeling of effective practice so you can provide a clear vision of what best practice looks like. And additionally, it should support collaboration through job-embedded contexts such as professional learning communities, and provide that coaching and support and feedback opportunities for reflection. And of course, it should be sustained and ongoing and not just a single one and done event. This document will soon be available on our professional learning page, but it is also available on the KY Standards webpage as well. So just want to take a look at supporting standards implementation and what resources are available around that work. We have these four modules and events available at this time. And the purpose of this is to help schools and districts identify resources that are available from KDE to support different stages of standards implementation. And this is updated on an ongoing basis as new resources become available. The first one to look at is the model curriculum framework. This is outlined in state law, and it is designed to provide guidance to districts in the areas not just of curriculum development, but also the selection of instructional resources and assessment and instructional strategies. Revision to this document began last year to align with the purpose that's laid out in legislation, and also to meet current needs of local schools and districts. One important note about the model curriculum framework is that it's meant to be used as a reference. So it's not something you would sit down and read cover to cover. It's, like again, it's more of a reference and there to support schools as you work in addressing any of these key areas. The introduction does differentiate the role of standards and curriculum and resources and who has the responsibility for each. The second section, curriculum development process, outlines different processes a school or district might use as they develop a local curriculum and to ensure that it is aligned to the Kentucky academic standards. The third section takes a closer look at the role that professional learning communities can play and how they can really bridge a gap between written curriculum and what is implemented in the classroom. The balanced assessment section is focused on creating a comprehensive balanced system of assessments with a specific focus on the formative assessment process. And then the appendix has tools and resources to support the implementation of any of these key areas of the framework. These are some topics that are currently available for professional learning communities or studies. Each one of them has a very easy to follow notes and guidance on how this could be facilitated by yourself or other leaders in the district. It's what sections to watch. There's a PowerPoint included that can be used and notes throughout to support the implementation. There are also leadership models that revolve around balanced assessment. If you look at this module 1, you can see there is a PowerPoint that goes along with it and also includes the facilitation guide with notes on leading this module. So we hope that you can take some time to reflect on these resources and think about how these could support your work in your district. So now we want to look at some resources that are available for teachers. Currently, these are the getting to know the modules, getting to know the standards resources or breaking them down, and then some assignment protocols and assignment library. These resources are foundational to supporting the work of teachers. When you access this is how you'll see, and you can, the intent is that teachers develop a deeper understanding of the Kentucky academic standards by helping them strengthen and seeing the connection between the standards and the way those can be used to design standards aligned instruction and appropriate grade level assignments. For each content-specific module, there's a PowerPoint, a facilitator's guide, and at-a-glance document, which is similar to what you saw previously. It's color-coded based on the discipline. So here you have your reading and writing. Here is health and physical education. The orange is mathematics, the green is science, the yellow is social studies, and then the purple is the career and financial literacy. Breaking down of standards resources are available currently for reading and writing, mathematics and science. There are components here that help gain greater clarity in what the standards ask students to know and what they need to be able to do in order to meet that grade level expectation. These resources help ensure alignment between instruction and assessment to the intended depth of the standards so that all students receive an equitable opportunity for learning. The Student Assignment Library provides examples of student tasks that are weak, partial, and strongly aligned to the standards. So it gives you an example of all three. These assignments can be used with the assignment review protocol to develop a better understanding of the tool and also how it can be applied to a teacher's own work. The protocols are meant to ensure that tasks and assignments are aligned to grade level standards, and it provides sample assignments and rationales to help better identify the tasks that are aligned to the academic standards. So again, looking at these resources for teachers, we hope you will consider how these can support you in your work. So standards resources are another component of the KY Standards website. So there are several discipline-specific resources available under your standards resources. When you click on this, you're going to see two columns, general resources and content area resources. And there are two ways to access this for each content area. You can click on the content area icon that you wish to explore on the right, or you can click on the professional learning modules on the left. Both are going to take you to the same resources. And so also want to look at resources for families. As you can see, the family guides have been developed to help families and community members get to know the content of each grade level a little bit better. Each guide contains a standards overview for reading, writing, mathematics, science, and social studies. Excuse me. These also include questions that families can ask students when discussing the standards with them. The Family Guide Understanding Student Assessment was developed to help families understand how assessment can support student learning by providing them with a quick reference of different types of assessments students might engage in, and then how each assessment type can help students meet learning goals. The guide also includes questions that parents can ask their student and help the child's teacher to continue supporting learning at home through meaningful questions and conversations. So we also want to ask you to think about other resources that may be helpful to you in your work as a professional development coordinator, and we encourage you to contact any of us in professional learning with any ideas or questions that you may have. Here is the contact information for Misty Higgins and Carrie McDaniel. Again, they are coordinators for professional learning. And then my contact information will be provided at the end. The last thing we want to look at is are the available resources for the multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. Jan Sellers is our coordinator for that, and I will have her contact information as well. But I just wanted to give you an overview of the resources that are currently available through this site. This is the common message that we want to be sure to share around the MTSS framework as it expands the system of response to intervention to a more comprehensive and multi-tiered system of support to make sure we're encompassing the whole child. The website is designed to communicate that common message and also function as a toolkit to support districts and schools and you in your work as you work to understand and implement and improve and sustain an integrated multi-tiered system of supports. So here are some resources that are available to coordinators and leadership teams. These are foundational resources, and they're designed, again, to build that common understanding of the definition and purpose of an integrated MTSS implementation, improvement, and sustainability within the district. So you can use the navigation bar on the homepage to access overview information, and it also provides information on the why. Why is this here, and what is the intention behind the information on the 6 essential elements of MTSS, also as a resource library of guides, resources, and tools to help facilitate implementation. So this begins with resources to help build understanding of how MTSS in Kentucky aligns to KDE's vision and core values, what KYMTSS is and its purpose. For districts and schools moving from an RTI model to the more comprehensive multi-tiered system model, this provides the what and the why behind the framework. The overview page provides the definition and then the KYMTSS graphic illustrating the 6 interconnected components, and then also a crosswalk that is designed to provide clarity to educators or leadership teams, administrators, and so forth on how to that these systems are interconnected, and also how the foundational components are also connected. The why KYMTSS page is designed to help educators understand how various multi-tiered systems and related initiatives all fit under this comprehensive framework, and what the benefits are of having an integrated framework. There are resources around the 6 essential elements, and those can be accessed by clicking on the icons directly on this navigation bar. This will also take you to a page with an overview of the element and why it's considered essential, and then the key features involved with implementation. Each page also has a direct link to the resources specific to that element, and you can also access those directly from the navigation bar. The resource library is where you can find key practices, resources, and tools to support implementation. These pages are continually updated and will continue to be as new resources are added and specific tools are included. So again, take a minute to think about the MTSS resources and also your stage of implementation at your district. Is there a specific area or focus for your district at this time? And are there any other resources that might be needed to support your district's implementation? We do encourage you to, again, to contact us with any questions or needs. This is Jan Sellers, our coordinator's contact information. So we do ask that you please take a second to provide feedback on this webinar. We hope it has been informative, not only on the responsibilities that go with being a professional coordinator, but also on the trainings that are required within the district based on state policy, and then also resources that are available through the Department of Education. If you need ELA credit, this is also the way to access that. So again, thank you for your time or taking the time to listen to the webinar. Here are some additional resources for you to help support your work as professional development coordinator. We thank you for your time and best wishes for a productive and successful school year. Thank you.